Morning, church. Morning. Kingdom kids. Kids are welcome to go learn their lesson. First thing this morning is I want to read with you a quick few pages from a popular book. On the 15th of May, in the jungle of Newell, in the heat of the day, in the cool of the pool, he was splashing, enjoying the jungle's great joys, when Horton the elephant heard a small noise. So Horton stopped splashing. He looked toward the sound. That's funny, thought Horton. There's no one around. Then he heard it again, just a very faint yelp, as if some tiny person was calling for help. I'll help you, said Horton. But who are you? Where? He looked and he looked. He could see nothing there, but a small speck of dust blowing past through the air. I say, murmured Horton, I've never heard tell of a small speck of dust that is able to yell. So you know what I think? Why, I think that there must be someone on top of that small speck of dust. Some sort of creature of very small size, too small to be seen by an elephant's eyes. Some poor little person who's shaking with fear that he'll blow in the pool. He has no way to steer. I'll just have to save him, because after all, a person's a person, no matter how small. That book by Dr. Seuss, Horton Hears a Who, was written in 1954, and he wrote that for the sole purpose of sentiment after World War II was very poor towards other races and some other cultures because of the war. And so one of his goals behind writing it was that a person is a person, no matter how small. No matter where they come from, no matter how far away they may be, no matter how little we may look upon them, a person is a person. You know the subject material of today's sermon. This is a touchy subject for many. And I recognize that we have made this, and we've discussed this, we have turned this into a political issue, and one of the things that I will argue with you here this morning, that this goes far beyond that of a political issue. This is a moral topic to discuss. So when I discuss this, know this first and foremost, and we will continue to stand on this position. Myself, my wife, I will raise my boys this way, and as a church, as Christians, you and I will stand together under this sentiment. And this is the title of today's sermon. We are pro-life. We are pro-life. Number one, I want to discuss with you, first and foremost, why abortion is wrong. Well, number one, it's wrong because we are pro-life, right? Obviously, it's the anti-life. Now, let me define what I mean by abortion. Because right now, if you were to Google what the dictionary definition of abortion is not what I agree with when I'm discussing here today abortion, right? There are some procedures that are done involving that of babies in the womb that are considered abortions, and yet I don't consider that under that heading of abortion. So I will give you the best definition possible of that. It is the purposeful, the intentional killing of a baby, whether born or unborn. No matter its location, it is the intentional killing of a baby. We are not discussing the situation of a mother has an issue that happens early on in her pregnancy, and I know that there are ladies that deal with this, and I want to be sensitive toward this topic, toward the topic of miscarriage. When there is a miscarriage, the unintentional death of a child due to a lack of hormone in the body, due to some unmitigated circumstances, don't label that under abortion. Please don't, and here's why. Because they want you to confuse those definitions so that it all seems okay. What's the difference between a miscarriage and abortion? One is the intentional killing of a baby. One is not. Two different definitions for two different circumstances. Don't be fooled by language to confuse you as to the topic. Some will say, and again, these are medical definitions for the things, some will say that abortion is the removal of a pregnancy. It's not a pregnancy, it's a baby. Right? They say that so you don't have to say the term baby. What is one of the number one terms that we like to use instead of baby to make it seem okay? Fetus. Guess what? It's a baby. That's why the word fetus actually does just mean baby. It's because it's a baby. Biologically speaking, we know that what is in a mother's womb is DNA different than that of the mother. It is not part of the mother. It is attached to the mother and does continue to feed off of the mother, very true. But it is an entirely separate entity that is inside of a mother's womb. It is not a potential life. It is life that has potential. Right? We are talking about life in the womb. Now, we have the distinct luxury today of scientific analysis, of understanding of what goes on inside of a mother's womb during pregnancy. Yesterday, me and my family had the honor of gas money and the ability to do this, to go to the Museum of Science and Industry in Chicago. They have there a wing for pregnancy. And in the pregnancy wing, literally, physically, are babies lined up at not every single week, but every stage of pregnancy there. Actual babies that have been given over to science for us to be able to examine and to understand. Here's why I say any of this. You cannot come to me biologically in any way, shape, or form, scientifically, and argue that the baby that is born at 37 weeks, or the baby that is born at 38 or 39 or 40 or even 41 or 42, is any that different of the baby that was conceived 9 months previously. The difference is the growth of organs. The difference is the growth in size. The difference is the formation of more tissue, more cells being divided. That is the only difference. It's the only distinct difference. We know scientifically life begins at conception. That's not my opinion that I'm bringing before you. We know that new DNA, a new life, is formed at conception. It is plainly murder when we consider the killing of a life. And that includes any and every location. That includes any and every location. And in the United States now, since Roe v. Wade was passed back in the 70s, there have been over 60 million abortions performed. That's how crazy this topic has come and how persistent it has obviously become in our society about it. Now, biblically speaking, here's the argument that you will hear. Jesus didn't talk about abortion. Yes, he did talk about abortion. And here's how I know Jesus did talk about abortion. If you hate your brother, Sermon on the Mount, you commit murder. Well, folks, I don't know about you, but I've been guilty of that in my life, as we all have. The direct going against someone in a selfish act, such as that of direct murder. But Jesus lays it out exactly for us, that murder is directly sin. Acting on one's own benefit over that of another's is directly sin. And that's exactly what we do when we discuss the topic of abortion. Jesus didn't have to specifically say every age for us to know that murder is murder. Guess who else Jesus didn't say what murder is murder? Your 89-year-old grandmother is, if you intentionally kill her, is also murder. Jesus didn't mention the 89-year-old grandmother. He didn't have to. It's included. Scripture obviously includes life in the womb. Not only are there specific references to life in the womb, even the life of Jesus in the womb, which we don't have all the time in the world to discuss, but look at Psalm 139 here with me this morning, and this is the token psalm that we always turn to for biblical proof, theological proof for life beginning at conception, life beginning in the womb. Psalm 139, beginning in verse 13. For thou didst form my inward parts, thou didst weave me in my mother's womb. I will give thanks to thee, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Wonderful are thy works, and my soul knows it very well. My frame was not hidden from thee when I was made in secret, and skillfully wrought in the depths of the earth. Thine eyes have seen my unformed substance, and in thy book they were all written, the days that were ordained for me, when as yet there was not one of them. You come to me with any theological, biological argument that you wish on when does life start, and is the murder of, or the killing of a baby in the womb murder, and you will not be able to make an argument. Scientifically, theologically, everything considered, everything concerned. Name me the week of life, and I'm calling it life, in which it is okay to kill. Name it. Now, there are some who are advocates for different weeks of life, right? Some may argue, well, it's 10 weeks, because at 10 weeks, right, a form of consciousness is gained. A lot of people argue 6 weeks, because at 6 weeks is the normal process of a baby receiving a heartbeat, right? There are people who make arguments based upon the week and the formation of the baby in the womb. Here's why that doesn't hold up. Number one, what if you're wrong? Because if you argue to me that heartbeat is the formation of life in the womb, why in the world do we have a defibrillator in the back? Because why would I be concerned about restarting somebody's heart if they're dead? If you don't consider a baby's life to be started before that of a heartbeat, why save anyone without a heartbeat? What's the point? What's the purpose? Oh, that's right, you have care and concern for them. I'm glad that we've got a defibrillator sitting in the back. That's the idea. If you're going to make any argument based off of a week, and that is when life starts, therefore anything prior to that, it is okay to terminate the life of the baby. Please, please, please take that argument to the Lord above. I encourage you to, because I know that He will disagree. I know that biologically science will disagree. I know that, it's still wrong. Regardless of the situation, regardless of the circumstances. We make arguments based upon semantics instead of making arguments based upon the life of a baby. And by the way, if you ever hear about anybody make the argument, I think it's 10 weeks. All right. What about 9 weeks and 6 days? Is that close enough? Because what you're telling me is, if at 10 weeks, that's the cutoff line, what if you do terminate the life of the baby at 9 weeks and 6 days? Am I not a murderer now? Or 9 weeks and 5 days, am I not a murderer now? How about now? Just come back a week. Why was it okay there and not okay here? What was the difference? The formation of a skull? The formation of a kidney? What was the difference? I was just watching, I have watched 3,000 debates this week on abortion. And the ins and outs, trying to not only prepare for this, but make sure that I'm totally informed on the topic. One of the set ladies argued that that the ability to have life outside of the womb is that of verification. All right, we don't need to terminate the life of the baby anymore. Around 20 to 21 weeks, somewhere in there. And the argument still rested in, what do you do with 19 weeks and 6 days? Why is that okay? And 20 is the cutoff. It's an argument not based upon logic. It's an argument based upon that of emotion and based upon that of feelings. There's no reason behind it. There's no rhyme behind it. It's just what we feel like coming up with. And that is not an argument that will uphold. This is one of the best arguments that I can give as to why it is wrong. When does a baby get a soul? It's conception. And I dare you to go tell a mother who has had a miscarriage that her baby did not have a soul at conception. Good luck with that argument. I pity the fool that tries to make that one, to quote Mr. T. Number 2, and we've talked about a few of them. What are the excuses that we give? And by the way, we are pro-life. So that automatically excludes the excuses that we come up with. You name me the situation, and we'll go outside of the womb, here on the earth. You name me the situation in which you say murder is now justified. Name me the situation in which we would say, all right, if this happened, now I have free rein to kill someone. Well, you wouldn't be able to come up with a situation. You might feel like you were justified in doing so. You might get that emotional response towards it, but that doesn't mean that it is a justifiable cause for murder. Well, here's the reality of it. Every excuse that we list under the book, and I've listed just a few of them for us here this morning, none of these are actually excusable for murder. One of the biggest ones, the biggest advocates for abortion is, well, abortion is health care for the mother. It's health care. What if we don't give health care to the mother? Name the situation in any room around the planet, whether it be physicians, at a clinic, you name it, in which murder is the solution for health care. It wouldn't be. It wouldn't be. None of us would go into our doctor and say, listen, my husband sure is causing me a lot of stress. That's why I'm having all these anxiety problems. Would it be okay if I just... And your physician would call 911 very quickly. There's a reason for that. Because it's murder. The argument for abortion being health care is not an argument. Did you know that there is not a process, not even one, we'll talk about this a little bit later, but did you know that there is not a process in which the termination of the life of a baby, the direct termination of a life of a baby is actually necessary? Even in those off-the-wall cases where you do hear that mothers go through difficult pregnancies at difficult times, there is always something that can be done to at least strive to spare both the life of the mother and the life of the baby. Even an early set C-section is not the direct killing of a child. Rather, remove the child and give it the opportunity for life than to directly be involved in its killing. There is a difference. There is obviously a difference. Number 2, you hear this a lot. Well, what about rape and incest? Can we agree here this morning, folks, that rape and incest is terrible? Can we agree to that? Sexual assault is terrible. It's awful. Wish it didn't happen. It does. But here's the reality of it. In which situation of rape and incest is murder now justifiable? You can't come up with one because it's not. By the way, did you know that statistics on, they say, well, what about those who have had rape and incest? No, it's caused a pregnancy. and a baby to be formed in a womb. Do you know how often that happens? Did you know that 2%, in fact less than 2%, of all pregnancies are from rape that go through abortion? And less than 1%, it is 0.5% of all abortions that happen because of incest. So if you're going to argue for the small margin off here to the right, we can talk about that. But I'm talking about the other 97% that happen outside of rape and outside of incest. We'll talk about that too. I still think it's wrong there. I know that it's wrong there because murder is still not justifiable. But let's talk about the other 97 where you're just using that as an excuse. Can't afford it. Did you know today we live in one of the most developed societies that has ever existed? Do you know how many few people, and you know this and I know this, do you know how many few people are actually dying from starvation in our country? It's near none. Unless you choose to go to an area that has no accessibility to a food bank, no accessibility to those that are willing to help you, those are the situations of people starving on the side of a road out in the middle of a highway in the middle of nowhere. We don't really have much of that issue because of the society that we have built around. Every major city, and even the small cities around, have access to food. Have access to, we don't always agree with it even, but everybody is getting access to health care. Everybody. Name me the situation in which murder is okay because we say, well, I won't be able to put enough food on the table. Did you know that nearly 60% of ladies who have abortions already have a kid at home? It's not like it's all first-time mothers going in for abortions. No, the majority of them already have at least one child at home. Well, why are you choosing to spare one child and kill the other one? What's the difference between your children? And by the way, would I be willing on my behalf to starve so that my children could eat? Yes. Yes, please. I will go without food. I don't know what I'll do on the seventh day without food. I may be ravishing and hungry. But there's a huge part of me that will still give that last Twinkie to my kid over me. Because I care about them a little bit more than I care about myself. The argument is not justifiable for that of murder. This is one of the best ones, right? What about the child that we find in the womb that does have some sort of physical, mental handicap? That they are not going to, it's going to be an abnormal, perhaps, pregnancy or an abnormal child. Why are we killing them? Why are we killing them? Why is that the solution? Yes, I recognize that growing up with, or perhaps raising a child in your household with that of a mental handicap would be rather difficult. Go ask the mother or the father with one of them as to whether or not they would kill them. Because none of them would say that. Sometimes it is difficult to raise them. It's not justification for killing them. Name me the individual with Down syndrome whom you have met that was not an absolute sweetheart. They are some of the sweetest people you ever meet in your life. Why is our solution killing them? This is the best one. The coup de grace. They might have a hard life. Give me a break. They might have a hard life because perhaps you are in a poverty situation, or perhaps you don't live in the best of areas. They might have a hard life. Folks, I know plenty of people with hard lives. We don't go around killing them. I know plenty of people who are going through rough situations. I would never say, well, you might as well just go home and end it. That would never be our solution. We would never say that. But why do we do that? with abortion. Every argument that you bring, name it, and I will give you one that is just an excuse to get away from the responsibilities of parenthood. To get away from the responsibilities of parenthood. Get this. Did you know that 86 to 87% of abortions, do you know how many of those ladies are married? 86 to 87% of them aren't. I argue that we don't just have an abortion problem, we have got a sexual problem. Because we keep sleeping around as a society getting pregnant, and then there are men who are not stepping up as fathers to say, I'm going to take care of that baby, I'm going to do everything that I can do to take care of that baby. But number two, why are we not encouraging, how about you get married? Because that's going to take care of a lot of these problems. We keep encouraging the exact opposite of what we should be doing. Getting back to families being families. Please quit sleeping around. If you know that you are below the poverty line, what is one of the most foolish things that you could go around doing? The possibility of getting pregnant. What did we do that for? But that wasn't justification enough for you to go out and not only get pregnant, but then to kill it. To kill your child. I recognize that some of these are difficult situations, and I recognize that some of these are legitimate issues. I believe poverty is an issue. I believe that families not being together is an issue, but it's not justification for murder. None of it ever is, and none of it ever will be. Number three, how do we fight back? And just in case you forgot, we are pro-life. How do we fight back against that? Number one, and this is what I ask of all of you in here today, be informed. One of the best things that you can do personally, and this is the beauty of what we have, go ahead and look up for me on your phone right here what a 10-week-old baby looks like. And then go look what a 9-week-old baby looks like. And then go look what an 8-week-old baby looks like. And so on and so on and so on and so on and so on. And then come back to me and say, well, I don't think that's life. Okay. We have the beauty of the understanding of information. We live in an information age where it is rapidly easy for us to find. These statistics that you can find on abortion, where it's 80% or 87% of women are unmarried when they're having abortions, that's not me saying that. That is progressive sources that already agree with abortion that say that. Right? That's not just something that I shot off with. That is exactly what they have pursued in their understanding of abortion. Did you know that we have beautiful things like foster care and orphanages that are available for such purposes as perhaps someone saying, I can't take care of this child. Fine. Let's not kill them. Let's find another solution. Now here's what you'll hear. Well, the foster care system is broken. There are some ways in which foster care and adoption are broken. I won't disagree with that. Why is that okay then to murder? Why is that okay then to murder? It's not. Did you know that in Illinois, we have a safe haven law? We have a safe haven law. If you have a child within 30 days of their birth, you can walk up to the local police station, to the local fire department, and hand your baby off, no questions asked. No questions asked. Now, do I think that that is totally okay, that people should be able to get off scot-free? No. But why do I like that law? Because it saves lives. It saves lives. That's the intention of that law, so that somebody won't say, I can't do anything with my child, let me go throw it in a dumpster. It stops them, hopefully, from doing that. Great. Good law. Because we're trying to save life. That's why we do have a foster care system. What's the goal? To save life. That's why we do have an adoption system. Why? To save life. Yeah, in a lot of areas it is broken. We're dealing with people here. But it's a lot better solution than murder. I would much rather support a woman, a mother in their decision of giving their baby over to the foster care system or adoption agency rather than that of killing them. I'll support that every day. Be aware and be informed of the solutions around abortion. Abortion is not medically necessary. The murder is not medically necessary. We have ways of delivering babies outside of intentionally, directly killing them. Number 2, and this is obviously one of the largest ones, pray and seek God in it. Because do you know who will actually stop it at the end of the day? God will. Now, He may do that through judgment. He may do that through the circumstances that we may not want to happen. But if it means saving lives, I'm on board. I'm on board because God knows best. I'm on board because God is the one who can actually change things. And I'm on board because my God is in charge. I'm on board with God. Let Him be our champion to fight on our behalf. Number 3, one of the reasons that abortion has so persisted in not only our country but around the world is because the ones who are being punished for their simple existence can't speak up. They can't. They can't speak back and say, no, I don't want this. The baby in the womb can't say anything back. That's why I am here to try and speak on their behalf and to say how terrible and awful it really is. I want to be an advocate on that child down the street who is going to have perhaps no chance to make it. And if that means I go to the mother and say, it's fine, let me help you in all of this, do it. Because it means you're saving a life. We're pro-life. Be an advocate. Stand up against murder of children. We're against that. It's okay to say that. And it's also okay for somebody to disagree with us. We know biologically and we know theologically that they're wrong. And we can stand up on our behalf and say that. Now let me also say this. We do care for the mothers as well. Why? Because we're pro-life. I'm not saying that we don't care about the mothers. I'm not saying that we don't care about the fathers who are going through such situations. They are difficult situations with difficult decisions. I totally get that. Birth is a difficult time to go through. I've witnessed 2 now by my wife. It was a difficult circumstance for her to be in. But you know what came out of it? My children are better than your children. That's what came out of it. And by the way, they're my kids. I'm allowed to say that. The greatest blessings that I've ever had in my life. We act like the results aren't worth it. Of course they are. Yes, birth is difficult. Yes, I don't have to go through it. That's true. But it doesn't mean that murder is justified because it's hard. It's not an excuse. We do care for the mothers. We do want health care for the mothers. Don't think I'm not saying that we don't. But I want their solution to not be the murder of their child. I want their solution to be anything else other than the murder of their child. I'm not here to shame. I'm not here to go against and say that they're our enemies. They're not our enemies. Satan is our enemy. But there is nothing that he wants more than to make sure that we can't raise up a new generation of Christian people. That's exactly what he wants. And when we don't speak up, and when we're not willing to preach on it and to talk about it, Satan wins. He wins in that battle. We care for all life. And by the way, for anyone that you know of, any situation that you personally have been involved in, where there was an abortion, we have a wonderful, amazing God who offers forgiveness for even that. For murder of the highest degree, we serve a God who can forgive for that. But that doesn't mean that it's okay. And that doesn't mean that we shouldn't have anything to say on it. Last thing I'll say, Jacob, why in the world are you talking about this? This is a touchy subject. It is a touchy subject. I know, and you know, that there is a decision being made this week on behalf of our government. And there is a decision being made, perhaps this week, towards the ending of life or towards more the saving of life. And you know exactly what I'm referring to. That's why I care. Because I want you to be informed. I want you to be informed on behalf of science. I want you to be informed on behalf of children. I want you to be informed on behalf of mothers. But I especially want you to be informed on the basis of God and what He cares about. God cares for life. We know that because we're still here. We are here and able to worship and to praise Him. God cares about life. I want to care about life too. I want to care for those who cannot speak up for themselves. I want to care for those that God cares about, and that's everyone. Therefore, I want to care for everyone. Regardless of circumstances, a person is a person, no matter how small. I know that this is a deeply moving subject and causes a lot of emotions for a lot of people. I get that. It can be a time to sit around the family table and have a good argument. And I believe it's rather something good to discuss and sometimes even to argue against. Sometimes there are good things to argue about. This morning, you and I have the opportunity to seek forgiveness for our own sins. Folks, we will die whether or not we get abortions in our lifetimes or what decisions we make on that. We've got sins of our own that we have to be forgiven of. And I want to encourage each and every one of you this morning to seek out the forgiveness of God. Did you know that the world will continue to die, both here and in the next life, unless we seek out the forgiveness of God? That is the only thing that is, the blood of Christ is the only thing that is going to cover us into the next life. And folks, I want to seek out forgiveness in mine. As we stand and sing our hymn of invitation this morning, know that you can receive the forgiveness of God through His Son, Jesus Christ. And by the way, in case we forgot, there is somebody who had to die on our behalf. Christ. And aren't we grateful that He did? Let's stand and sing our hymn of invitation this morning.